Have you ever seen a billionaire lose his cool? It happened during a recent sit-down with an interviewer who is usually very friendly toward big tech. The question was actually quite simple. How does a company making $13 billion promise to spend over $1 trillion? Sam Altman didn't just dodge the question, he looked visibly annoyed. He even suggested the interviewer should just sell his shares if he didn't like the answer. Think about the scale of that for a moment. OpenAI is planning to spend more money than the entire economy of most countries on infrastructure over the next decade. Yet their current revenue is less than 1% of that total commitment. It doesn't take a financial genius to see that the math isn't adding up. But Altman isn't offering a spreadsheet. He's asking for your absolute trust. He claims that once we reach a certain level of machine intelligence, every human problem will simply vanish. We're talking about curing cancer, ending poverty, and fixing the climate. It's a grand vision of a perfect world, but there is a massive catch. In exchange for this digital utopia, Altman wants society to hand over everything: our data, our energy, our resources, and even our economic stability. He wants us to put all our eggs into one single basket, his.
To understand where we're going, we have to look at where he started. Long before the world knew about ChatGPT, Sam Altman was a young founder with an app. It was called Looped, and it was meant to help you track your friends. The problem was that social apps only work if people actually use them. Altman repeatedly claimed that the user base was massive. He insisted it was bigger than any other service in the field. But when the truth finally leaked, it was a complete embarrassment. Reports suggested the app had only 500 active users. When journalists questioned him, Altman promised he had evidence to prove them wrong. He said he would provide the data, but that evidence never showed up. Instead, the company was sold under very strange circumstances. The buyers shut it down immediately. They didn't even use the technology. Investors later claimed the whole thing was a dirty deal designed to enrich a few powerful insiders. Altman walked away with millions for a product that basically didn't exist. It was his first big win, but it was built on a foundation of unverified claims and broken promises. It set a pattern that would define his entire career in Silicon Valley.
Every powerful figure needs a mentor. For Altman, that was Peter Thiel. Thiel is a man who once suggested that Altman should be treated almost like a messiah figure. He gave Altman millions of dollars to start his own venture capital firm. Soon after, Altman was running Y Combinator. This is the most influential startup factory in the entire world. It's where the next generation of tech giants are born. But there was a serious conflict of interest. Altman promised he wouldn't use his position of power to invest in the companies he was supposed to be mentoring. He claimed he would keep his personal investments separate. Yet internal reports later revealed that 75% of his personal funds capital was invested in Y Combinator startups. He was essentially using his inside track to build his own personal empire. He had a front-row seat to the most promising tech ideas, and he was taking a cut of the action for himself. This pattern of saying one thing while doing the exact opposite became a hallmark of his rise. He was positioning himself as the leader of the startup movement, but he was playing by his own rules.
When OpenAI was first announced, it was supposed to be the good guys. They launched as a non-profit foundation. Their mission was to protect humanity from the dangers of artificial intelligence. They promised to avoid concentrating power in a few hands. They promised to be transparent with their research and their goals. But then the money started calling. In 2019, they quietly created a for-profit branch of the company. Suddenly, the mission shifted. It wasn't just about humanity anymore. It was about massive returns for investors. Microsoft stepped in with $13 billion. NVIDIA followed with promises of $100 billion more. But if you look closely at these deals, you'll see a very strange financial circle. OpenAI takes billions from Microsoft, then spends that exact same money on Microsoft's own cloud services. It's a giant feedback loop that keeps the biggest players in power. The original nonprofit foundation still exists on paper, but the real power has shifted to a corporate entity that has no legal duty to the public. They are asking for the world's trust, but they have traded their transparency for the biggest payday in history.
Artificial intelligence needs food to grow. That food is data, your data. Every post you've ever written, every photo you've ever uploaded, and every piece of art you've created. Altman had a secret weapon for this: Reddit. He wasn't just a casual user, he was a major shareholder and sat on the company's board. In 2015, he orchestrated a deal that allowed OpenAI to scrape every single post on the platform. Compare this to Aaron Swartz, one of Reddit's original founders. Swartz wanted to make information free for the benefit of all humanity. He was hounded by the government and eventually took his own life. Altman is doing something similar, but he's putting that data behind a corporate paywall. He is turning the public's collective knowledge into a private trillion-dollar product for himself. He even promised to give 10% of Reddit's value back to the community of users. Years have passed since that promise, and the community hasn't seen a dime. It's another example of a bold claim that seems to evaporate once the deal is signed.
The amount of electricity needed to run these AI models is staggering. Altman's long-term goal is to build enough energy capacity to power over 1 billion people. That is roughly the entire population of the country of India. But he doesn't just want the power, he wants to own the companies that provide that power. He's heavily invested in nuclear fusion, a technology that many scientists believe is still decades away. He's also backing companies building small, truck-sized nuclear reactors. Think about the business model here. He creates a technology that consumes unprecedented amounts of energy. Then he sells you the solution through his own energy companies. He's even invested in firms that mine the rare earth metals needed for the server farms. He isn't just building a chatbot, he is building the entire supply chain of the future global economy. If AI becomes the backbone of society, Altman will be the one who owns the nervous system. He is positioning himself to profit from the very problems his own technology creates.
What happens when the AI eventually takes your job? Altman says he has a plan for that, too. It's called WorldCoin. It's a cryptocurrency project that requires you to scan your eyeballs with a specialized silver orb. They call it proof of personhood. The idea is to create a global ID system and a universal basic income. But there's a massive catch. You only get the digital currency if you hand over your most private biometric information. It's the ultimate trust me deal. He's building a parallel economy that functions completely outside of any government control. If the current financial system struggles because of the AI revolution, he will be the one holding the keys to the new global currency. It's a world where your identity is tied to a private corporation. Just like his other projects, it requires everyone to join for it to have any real value. He's asking you to sign over your physical identity in exchange for a digital promise.
So, where does this leave the rest of us? We are being asked to bet everything on one man's vision. Our data, our energy, and our jobs are all being funneled into one single, massive basket. And if this grand experiment fails, OpenAI's own executives have hinted that the government would have to step in and save the project. That means your tax dollars are the ultimate backstop for their billion-dollar mistakes. We've seen this pattern before in history. The promises of universal abundance usually end with total power in the hands of a very small group. Altman claims he's doing this because he loves humanity, but his track record tells a different story. It's a story of hidden investments, broken promises, and unprecedented corporate ambition. Before we hand over the keys to our entire civilization, we should probably stop and ask if we really want this man to be the one in the driver's seat. The future is coming fast, but it might not be the utopia we were originally promised.